I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
I'm Greg Krugen in Houston.
And this is Texas, the issue is.
The recent surge of undocumented immigrants at our southern border and the continuing plague of overdose fatalities from fentanyl have served to underscore a crisis that appears to be growing worse. Enter Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw, who insists we as a nation will not suppress illegal crossings and narcotics until we enforce existing law and strike the Mexican cartels. Congressman Dan Crenshaw, assess what's happening on our border with retraction of Title 42.
So our hope has always been that once this Title 42 issue is rescinded, that we actually have a plan in place. And so right now, we're waiting and seeing. The administration claims they have a plan in place. I've seen the plan. I like many parts of that plan. But the reality is the laws have always been the laws, and since day one, Biden has basically refused to enforce those laws. And so there's not a whole lot of faith that they'll do a better job now without Title 42. So that's the fear. We've seen crossings go down in the last few days, and if that's sustained, then that's great news. It's great news because it shows that there's been a disincentive to cross in the first place.
Congressman, given the challenges long term, is a Border Patrol force of about 19,000 adequate to enforce our immigration laws?
You definitely bulk that up. Look, the main problem is refusal to enforce. The problem has been that because this administration doesn't enforce the laws and has basically implemented an illegal parole system, otherwise known as just catching and releasing, telling people they can maybe show up for their court date should they choose to do so, that's created a magnet to come in. So you stop that, and you can stop the inflow, and our current number of resources and border agents would be just fine.
Congressman, you've warned pretty loudly in the past that any long-term improvement is going to have to include effective countermeasures against the cartels. Why is that so critical?
It's really critical. For one reason, really, they have operational control of the border. The Mexican government does not have operational control of their side of the border. The cartels do. So the cartels have this zero-risk business model where they really can't get caught, and they can make billions. I think the estimate's up to $13 billion a year. So that's pretty good. What do they do with that? They reinvest it into their drug business. What are they doing with their drug business? Well, they're buying the precursors for fentanyl from China, making fentanyl, pressing it into pills, and killing tens of thousands of Americans a year. And that's another reason we should go after the cartels, because they're literally directly responsible for killing Americans. And it's time for a whole-of-government approach to deal with that problem, treat them like the enemy of the state that they are.
Speaker McCarthy has tapped you to lead a high-profile task force to figure out effective strategies against the cartels. What do you hope to accomplish?
So the goal will be assess what we're already doing, assess the capabilities of the cartels, assess their vulnerabilities, give a report to the speaker on that, and then draft actual legislation targeting their finances, targeting their networks, looking at what we're doing on the international level, the regional level, and providing comprehensive legislation.
Congressman, will military force in cooperation with the Mexican government be on the table for discussion?
Well, as you know, it's certainly on my table for discussion, and it's a big priority for me because it sends such a strong message to the cartels. You know, you've seen the president of Mexico clutch his pearls and say that we're going to invade Mexico. That's, of course, never what we were going to do. The entire point would be to work by, with, and through the Mexican government and send a message to the cartels that they've crossed a red line with the fentanyl production, and we will use whatever means necessary to go after them. We have a clear and present danger, basically a paramilitary threat, right on our border, and we have to deal with it.
Rudy, my one-word description is pragmatic. What's your word?
My word is poncho.
Poncho. Okay, a great deal to discuss, and we're bringing in some brain power. Rice political analyst Mark Jones joins our conversation when Texas, the issue is, returns on the other side of this break.